Hello, hello, I'm Kat, and welcome back for the second free-to-play review for the day. So we kind of got a big surprise. I was not expecting the Titan event to start so soon. I guess, spoiler alert, for the content for today, or this topic for the day. But yeah, we have a brand new Titan event starting today, featuring the perfect soul for the permanent mythical fusion in the game, Lady Mikage. Now, this was supposed to launch like hours ago. I guess all of this transpired while I was asleep, but we did notice that the event was turned off temporarily because there was some issue, but that has since been resolved and the event is live for us to see once again. So hopefully by now you guys are fairly familiar with the format for these. They go on for a certain amount of days and they feature different events that are tagged with the web points. In this case, they're tagged with Titan event points, and thus you need to complete those events in order to get points in order to progress towards whatever milestone you choose as your goal. All the way out would be 1750 points in this case, and note this is a bit longer than usual. Usually it's just over 2 weeks. In this case, it's kind of more closer to 2.5 weeks in terms of events, so there's a little bit more points up for grabs in total, and there's a little bit or the same amount of excess as usual. So 250 is our point buffer, meaning that there's a grand total of 2,000 points available across all of the events and tournaments that are going to feature these Titan event points, but you will only need to get to 1750 if your goal is to get all the way out to the 4-star perfect soul for Lady Mikage. In terms of the other rewards along the way, it's always good to get gems and energy, and the first milestone is really not that hard to do. Neither is milestone 2 overall, and I guess Lady Mikage has her 3D goggles on. That's a little weird. Maybe there's a little more bugs they need to fix there, but lesser oil and extract is always good. Ancient shard, player points, just kind of a joke really, but hey, more points is 1 inch closer to the 5-mile distance towards Sersha. More gems, more charms, tier 2 oil and extract, which is really good. Immortal soul coins, working our way up the perfect soul. Milestone 4, legendary tome, which is fairly cheap considering if you're usually this is like 1,000 points to get to milestone 4, so having the legendary tome down here is really good. Just means you're more likely to get it by not having to go all the way in on all of the events. Immortal soul stone is also down here as well, which is good. Void shard is good. Tier 3 oil and extract is also good. And then the big kahuna, the 4-star, perfect soul for Lady Mikage at the top here, with the mythical tome just behind that, and some more gems and a primal shard. So pretty good stuff. These rewards are pretty much the same, give or take. Some ordering changes between each of the types of iterations of the Titan event, but nonetheless, you usually walk away with a good amount of gems, some energy, both a legendary and a mythical tome, and then whatever the soul being featured is. So the pros for this are pretty much the same as always. You do get a perfect soul for a good champion, a 4-star in this case, Lady Mikage. It's not the most useful tier. I think after the rework, tier 5 is the most useful because you do get the baked in accuracy and resistance, but 4-star is a pretty good progression as far as it's compared to 0 or something lower, and so that's pretty nice to kind of guarantee yourself that if you can. As I already alluded to, you can get yourself a relatively speaking cheap legendary tome, which is always good to note, and then if you go a little bit harder, you can get yourself a mythical tome, which is great. And then of course we do have the 250 point buffer, which you can play around with to skip certain events just to make sure that you can get to whatever milestone you're going for. But of course, like I always mention, if you really only care about getting her to 3-star, you only want to go to 1,200 points. Well, there's 2,000 points total, which means if your only goal is milestone 4, then that means you can skip 800 points. So you get to pick, choose your own adventure. You get to pick how far you want to go as far as pursuing this, or not at all. I think it's not worth it to just completely ignore it, because you're just going to get points just for casually participating in events here and there. So pick a lower milestone that just seems reasonable or matches the amount of effort you want to put in, just so that you can walk away with some relatively free rewards just for playing the game. But pick your milestone, whatever you want to go for, and then just subtract that from 2,000, and that's how much buffer you have to play with, and that's how much bandwidth you can work around to make sure that you actually get to your goal. Now, there cannot be pros without some cons. So the bad thing, as I already mentioned, is that it's only a 4-star perfect soul. A 5-star would be a lot more advantageous because again, you get the bonus resistance and accuracy for whatever blessing you choose. Because she is good in PvE and PvP, that could be if it was 5-star, it could have been a great brimstone champion if you use her in PvE. Or of course, for the arena, polymorph is very prevalent and powerful, and you will be building her with accuracy to really utilize her kit. And so having a 5-star polymorph would be a lot stronger than having 3-star or 4-star. Another con is, of course, as always, Titan events do require extra effort. It's going to be like a mini fusion, and obviously the Aosta Dreamsong fusion literally just ended like a day ago. So if you wanted a break, this is not going to be a break. So it's going to require some effort, some silver, some gems, etc., energy, of course, and obviously some shards as well for these certain events that are going to come along down the road. And of course, the biggest con could be one saying, I don't even have Lady Mikage, who cares about her perfect soul, which is fair to some degree. I'm in that camp where I actually don't have her yet. I'm missing 4 of the epics to fuse into the legendaries, to fuse into her, and so it feels like I'm miles away from getting her. But nonetheless, for me, I would like to bank her perfect soul for eventually when I get her in 3 years when RNGesus finally gets on my side with those epics. But I digress. So the point being, I could see a lot of arguments for skipping this event. Burnout, I don't have the champion, I don't care about her perfect soul, etc. So come up with your own strategy for how you want to approach this. I still think it'd be at least worth going to like milestone 3, because again, that's minimal effort. You just playing the game, participating in a few events and tournaments, not even having to pull any extra shards, and you can probably get yourself all the way out to a 2-star soul, which is at least somewhat useful. I would encourage at least 3-star if you really want to push a little bit harder, because then you would also get yourself a legendary tome, and then 3-star is where you get the tier 2 effect of whatever blessing you happen to choose. And then of course, if you have the resources, you're in the super end game, which obviously Lady Mikage is a very end game champion, not necessarily in terms of acquisition. Of course, you can just get lucky and get the epics in your first couple of weeks, right? But generally speaking, fusing her, using her, having enough mythical tomes to book her is going to be something that's going to be more of an end game thing. So if you're in the end game, I would encourage you to go all the way out to milestone 5 and get the most bang for your buck in terms of getting a perfect soul. Because it is worth noting as well that if you look in the Altar of Souls, the Soul Merchant specifically, you actually cannot buy to upgrade mythical champions. And so the only way you could get them, if we just look at my soul collection here, the only way you could get mythical souls for champions is if you pull them from soul stones, which can be very easy, just if you happen to get lucky. Like you can see I have a smattering of random mythicals that I don't have, that I have the souls for, or you could get unlucky and you don't have a soul for the one that you might have. Like I obviously don't have Lady Mikage's soul at all. So for me, her soul would be very useful because I don't have it at all. But I could see the situation where someone's gotten lucky already and already has 4-star or higher perfect soul for her, and thus it's not really worth it to go for the Titan event if you already have it just by luck. So keep all of that in mind when you're making your decision. But again, reiterating the point that there's basically no other way to get her soul aside from just getting lucky from soulstone summons. You cannot buy your way through them via the soul merchant like you can with epics, rares, and legendaries. So as we established with the previous Titan event, I am going to be tracking my supply count as I go for this, as well as sharing my progress throughout the course of the video, particularly probably in like some of the summoning videos that are going to come out as a result of pursuing this goal. So first off, we are starting around 10 million on the silver post Aostra Dream Song, and then we're sitting around 3,600, let's round it up, 3,700 on the gems. But I do want to preface this by saying I am still actively in the pursuit of the Hero's Path soul, or the Hero's Path, trying to get Aostra's soul. You can see here, I'm basically on the long grind here towards the 50,000 points over the next 2 days. And so I'm most certainly going to be burning a lot of gems for that purpose. And so it's somewhat inaccurate to say that any losses today or over the next couple of days are attributed towards the Titan event. So I'll try to make a note of that in my post-Titan event post. So yeah, if I'm speaking truly objectively, this is probably the most skippable Titan event we've ever had, just because of all of the cons that I mentioned. And so I could totally understand those arguments overall. But again, I still would encourage you to get some progress, just because you get rewarded for just essentially playing the game. But if this were her 5-star perfect soul, I would be a little bit more high on pushing for getting as far as you truly can towards the highest milestone if it was a 5-star. But because it's a 4-star, I'm a little bit more lenient with my suggestions in this recommendations for this one. That's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Community Week's Titan event. Let me know in the comment section down below how far you plan to go in this iteration of the Titan event. Milestone 3, 4, 5, whatever your plan is, let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.